What for a client? Oh, I chose the big one. Yeah.
Actually, right, or like almost, there's a word for it.
Yeah.
Chisel's the word I'm
To
gonna
hang
use.
it, you mean kind of?
They would
Yeah.
hide that brace and then there would be a
Yeah.
brace coming down.
And then they would hang it on that kind. Yeah, I think
That
it
would be,
looks
I think that would look, and
James
it
Karen.
really would, it's very modern yet, and it's pulling a natural element in.
So
And I
you're
think
going
that that's a
out
really great idea.
Yes, sir. Miss Thursday.
I think it would look awesome.
Yeah, I
That'd be
think
great.
you're right about that.
Yeah, it's kind of good in between two offices. I think it's still a little further
Yeah, that would look really neat.
to Poppers.
Really, straight up, almost.
True. I guess I was just thinking more distance wise. But
Today
Gina,
Hey,
hey, I'm going to turn the volume up a little bit so we can hear you. Say
Gina, I
something.
love that picture.
Say something, Gina. Sing for us.
la, la, la.
All right. How is everybody?
Good.
So we're missing Karen and James. That's it? Okay. I think that means we have quorum, right? So we can vote for Karen and James to have to do something.
sure.
All right. Thank you all for being. Did you text Karen?
No,
Try text her.
I don't feel like we should.
Well, just try. A little reminder.
I talked to her.
Tell her it's time for her, we're ready for her presentation.
Then she'd panic a little bit, like, what presentation?
All right, she did show up on Saturday at Healing Transition, so that was cool. All right, so today I want to talk with you about the law of sacrifice. And there was some stuff in here that you know, when I was reading this, getting ready for the meeting, I had either didn't know or had forgotten about Martin Luther King. Maxwell wrote about Martin Luther King. So he apparently skipped the 9th grade. I didn't know that. And then I think he went into college a year early. So I think he effectively kind of skipped 2 grades and went off to, to Morehouse in Atlanta. And then went and got his PhD at Boston University. Anyway, he was a pastor in Montgomery, Alabama at the Baptist church there in 1954. Does anybody remember what happened in Montgomery around that time?
Was that the guy that was running for president? Didn't something happen? No.
Is that when they got
Sorry, that
shot
was
on
much
the-
later. That was later.
The civil rights thing?
It's a civil rights thing. Think about a bus.
Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks. Yep. And so he was very involved in that whole process of negotiating, you know, with the city to make it where anybody, you know, first come, first serve could sit in the front of the bus, and that they would hire African-American bus drivers and things like that. And during this time, he and his family started getting threats and things like that. Someone threw a bomb on their front porch. They were getting threatening phone calls at their house every day. You can just imagine, you know, some of these calls threatening, you know, to kill them even. And, you know, yet each time King climbed higher and moved forward in leadership for the cause of civil rights, the greater the price he paid for it. So that it was like the more he was doing and accomplishing and the larger things he was leading, the bigger and bigger the threats got and things like that, and the more sacrifice it involved. You know, and eventually he held a 250,000 person peaceful march in Washington, D.C. The other thing that I learned about him that I guess I had forgotten is that I think in high school, he learned about Mahatma Gandhi, and he got very interested in Gandhi and understanding how Gandhi changed India, you know, through peaceful protest. It was all done through non-violent protest and stuff like that. That was where King picked that up. So the law, one of the things about the law of sacrifice is it demands that the greater the leader, the more he must give up, he or she must give up. There is common misperception among people who aren't leaders that leadership is all about the position, perks, and power that comes from rising in an organization. Many people today want to climb up the corporate ladder because they believe that freedom, power, and wealth are the prizes waiting at the top. And don't we see that a lot where we see corporate people right now, and they sure look like they live really nice lifestyles. They don't seem to sacrifice much, right? They have planes and lifestyles we just can't even imagine and things. And yet, they probably have sacrificed things, don't you think, over time to get where they are. You could, if you really dug into the lives of those people, I think we would find that they've sacrificed things. I don't know, maybe it's their health, maybe it's their relationships with their family, maybe it's marriages, maybe it's all kinds of things that people sacrifice to move up in an organization. And I love John Maxwell's famous for having these little quotes that just kind of stick with you. And this one stuck with me. A leader must give up to go up. And so then he goes through 4 main tenets. And the first one is that there is no success without sacrifice. And if we think of our own lives, think of a time when you've been successful at something. Was it without sacrifice? Morgan, what was it like to graduate from Marine Corps boot camp, Paris Island?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of a,
You've probably erased it from your memory.
yeah, I mean, I think I guess at the time, like looking back, it was such a positive experience, right? But yeah, there was sacrifice involved.
What were some of your friends doing back home while you were down
Smoking
there?
pot, drinking, whatever.
Right.
They
weren't doing something that challenging and difficult.
Right. Yeah, so you had to give up.
To earn the right to be a Marine, to be a leader, you sacrificed something, right? You went off for months and, did something really hard as an example. The next one is that leaders are often asked to give up more than others. And he goes into talking about this concept that I thought was really interesting, that as you move up in leadership, your rights actually go down and your responsibilities go up. It's kind of inverse. So when you have no responsibilities, you can pretty much do anything you want. Once you take on responsibility, you start to experience limitations in what you can do. And
that's so true. Like I see that in like society in general. Like, I mean, you see, and we're talking about Martin Luther King rioting, peaceful protests and all these different things. Well, I think a lot of the things we're seeing right now, at least, and I mean, I guess I can be honest in my opinion, but just like the denigration of like the family, right? Like no one is accountable, no one is responsible. So like, while Morgan Womble, I can't go out and tear up a city and burn it down, because if I get caught on video doing that,
nobody will buy a house from me.
Nobody will buy a house from me. You can't do that. You can't do that. So a lot of that is because of that. Like, these people, if there's no responsibility,
right?
Regardless of race or anything like that, they can't know who's going to hold them accountable. Doesn't matter.
Right.
They don't care.
Karen, we're working on the law of sacrifice. And so we talked about how the chapter opens talking about Martin Luther King and how he became a pastor in Montgomery in 1954. Shortly after that, Rosa Parks decided she didn't want to sit in the back of the bus anymore. And he was so involved in negotiating with the city about the bus system and everything. And as that started to happen, he started getting death threats and all kinds of things, so that he was, as a leader, sacrificing. And the more he moved up as a leader to bigger and bigger, eventually he led a 250,000 person march.
Right.
The more he did that, the more he and his family sacrificed. And but so think about like that. Yeah, as you move up, your freedom goes down to be able to do, say, anything, right? You are, so think of it this way, like, if I'm to be honest with you, there are times I think like, oh, that would be kind of a funny social media post, or to show people this or that, or what I'm doing or something. And then I'm like, maybe I shouldn't though, because of how people might view that or perceive it, or I need to be
There's such a danger in that too, though. Like, there's a lot of times I'm like that. I'll get ready to post something and I'm like, if it offends, like, the problem is if it offends one person out of 100,
right?
Like, that's what everybody hears about. You can have 100 people in this room,
right?
And if one of them is offended, it seems like now we have to change for the one. And so I get that.
And
what
it
you're
could even
saying,
just be, I might be off with some buddies goofing around, and
but it's how it looks.
Maybe I better not, and not that I don't do anything risque at all in my life. it's
Right.
actually really boring. But there have been times when I thought like, it'd be kind of fun to post this, but maybe I
Can't.
well, and again, like, so, we have almost 600 agents altogether and a staff of 15, and I need to be the same to everybody. I want to connect with everybody, and so it's a challenging thing. So that's an example of, in a way, how I feel like on a personal level, my freedom has gone down as my responsibility is going up, right? I can't just do or say whatever comes to mind anymore. And then the next one is you must keep giving up to stay up. So it's this idea that the sacrifice it's not like you just sacrifice for a little while and then you're like, oh, good, I'm glad I'm through the sacrifice part and now I'm here and I get the private jet and the whatever and I'm the leader. And that is not how it works. There's a really good quote. He talked about basically how he sees this over and over again, that people, they do a limited amount of sacrifice, like just enough to get into leadership or grow to some point, and then they stop, and that they weren't really interested in being real leaders. They were interested in getting something, right? It was the destination was the goal, not the process of leadership. And the fourth one is the higher the level of leadership, the greater the sacrifice. So, and he goes back to talking about King, like it was the more he grew as a leader, the sacrifice just kind of kept getting bigger and bigger. And that, anytime you see success, you can be sure someone made sacrifices to make it possible. Think of Kobe Bryant. A lot of people don't know this, but he is known as like having an amazing work ethic. Right. So when he was playing basketball, he made it look easy, didn't he? I remember when he got drafted, like right out of high school, and it was like, he just made it look easy. Well, what people didn't know about him is that he would get there before the team showed up to practice. When they got there, he was already there shooting free throws, whatever. And then when they left, he stayed. So there was sacrifice there. And so then just to wrap it up, so to become a more influential leader, are you willing to make sacrifices? And, one of the reasons I picked this one today is there are times when we think, do we ever start feeling like, I'm kind of tired of making sacrifices? Like, you get tired of it. You don't want to make sacrifices anymore. And it's this idea that it's just part of the process. And the more we want to do and accomplish and achieve, the more sacrifice will be involved in it. The next is living by the law of sacrifice usually means being willing to trade something of value that you possess to gain something more valuable that you don't. So it's what do you want? Where do you want to be? What kind of life do you want to live? Is being a leader the path to that somehow or other? Or what are you willing to give up? And then one of the most harmful mindsets, this is what I was talking about earlier. One of the most harmful mindsets of leaders is what I call destination disease. The idea that they can sacrifice for a season and then arrive and think like, okay, good, well, I'm done with that now. And one place where as I was thinking of that, I've seen that in our company. Like I've seen people want to be a team leader for Keller Williams. And in hindsight, I look back, I think of like the interview process or talking with those people, whether they were in with me or somewhere else. And it was kind of like this idea of like, well, I want to be a team leader because I want profit share, or I want to be an OP later or whatever. And it's just thinking like, oh, I'll just make the sacrifice for that period of time and then I'm done. And that's not how it works. So anyway, thoughts on the law of sacrifice?
Well, I'll say something. I think we need to be really careful. And just the one thing that I picked up, I mean, there's several things I picked up from what you just talked about, but it's back to like the self-censorship, basically. I think there's time, I think it's smart, like in a lot of ways, but I also think it's really dangerous, like personally. That's why I've had to kind of remove myself. Like, I mean, I'm still on Facebook, but I don't have it on my phone.
Right.
Like I maybe look at it once a week.
I did take it off my business.
Just because it's so much negativity, you know, so much negativity. And every time you do self-censor yourself, I think you personally get angry, or
Right.
I do. Like, I'm like, I have to do
Those
this.
algorithms are designed to make you angry.
Right.
They're just designed to get a reaction. They're not designed to make you happy.
Yeah.
In fact,
So-
they have figured out that the more they tick you off, the
Right.
more you swipe and keep going.
Right. And that's why I've just took it off, because I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to do
Have you
it.
seen The Social Dilemma?
Yeah.
No.
You guys can watch that.
What is it? Is it like
It's
a
a documentary on Netflix.
social
It is
dilemma? That'd be good.
Scary. It's all about what social media.
And I think
is
it's
now.
worse. I think it's even worse than that. I mean, I think it's, I don't know, that's just my personal opinion. So it's like, I think there's such a danger in like the self-censorship.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, we hear about big tech censorship and like freedom of speech and all these things going on. But what about the self-censorship? Like, so how do people really feel,
Mhm.
but they're unable, it's pent up inside them, right? And maybe that's why we see some of the things like, you know, cities getting torn up, you know, you have one, you know, it's not two distinct sides. I think there's lots of different groups, right? But you know, cities get torn up, all this stuff, because they've been self-censoring for years, right? And so maybe there's some pent up demand along with they have nothing to be like, if Morgan goes to do that or Karen goes to do that, we lose our jobs.
Mhm.
Like, no one's gonna buy a house from me or Robert.
Well,
if we're,
aren't
like,
you all
running a city now.
leaders?
Yeah, I think we are, but I think that's why it's so scary, because it's like, I can't, like, if I feel like I have something to say that's gonna maybe be good for our office sometimes, or like society in general, like sometimes you have to be like, you don't want to, if you offend somebody today, you're done.
Mhm.
Like I'm done. Like if I offend somebody, like they will take me down.
Mhm.
They're gonna go back, they're gonna find a way to get me, you know. And I did that with one post. I don't know if any of you guys saw it a while back, and I'll just give my opinion again, since we're in this group setting. And you know, but it was about like female or male transgenders transitioning to female, right? And I don't want them swimming against my daughter. Like, I don't think it's fair, right? Like, I don't think it's a good thing. And like, to me, that or whether it be track and field, whatever it is. And I put that on there, and dude, they were like, "Oh, you work for KW, we're gonna get you fired."
They do
I
a
mean,
deep, they do a deep.
they go everywhere on you, and so I just went silent. Okay, but there was other things I wanted to say, but I was having to self-censor myself, because I was like, you know what? They can call Keller Williams and get me fired.
Well, I had to let an agent go last year over social media activity.
Wow.
And it was, you know, it got to a point where it rose to a level of what I thought was like advocating violence and some stuff like that. And I was like, this is not
No.
what we want to be part of. So
Mhm.
that person's at another company right now. And I'm glad they are.
Right.
You know, we told them they were going to have to leave. So
But you know what? So that's Facebook. So that's that.
Yeah.
Who cares, right? When I post on there, I post fluff. I totally post fluff. I post my flowers. I don't put my grandkids on there
Right.
once in a blue moon that's happened. I just don't do it, you know, and I find peace within my personal setting. My family is my comfort zone.
Right.
well, and everybody gets to use those kind of things how you want, how we, you know, you see, I made a decision a long time ago. I really didn't use Facebook or social media until I became a team leader at Keller Williams. And I just decided my personal thing was going to be positive only and non-controversial. That was what the decision I made. Everybody can do what they want, but now kind of understanding this lesson from Maxwell, I think I felt that, right? It's like, I need to be, if I'm going to be in a leadership role in our company, that means I need to be in that for everybody. And it means I need to not do things that are going to make some people feel uncomfortable and some people feel comfortable, or make it harder for me to connect with some people. And you know what I mean? So that was just the decision I made. And if you go scroll through my Facebook for years, I think everything you see will be positive and it will be non-controversial. You know, that's just what I decided to do. So, I shared on LinkedIn recently, I shared RTP's thing about Apple moving here. And I was actually kind of shocked. I got a bunch of hate comments. First time ever I got like all these
Like what
negative
kind? Like,
about how it was going to ruin Raleigh,
Oh.
make it expensive for, working class people and stuff. And I was like, I was thinking
They
prosperity.
not
was
been
coming.
paying attention for the past 10 years.
Right. So anyway, I was thinking of it as prosperity is coming for everybody, rising tide lifts all boats. And they were thinking of it as, people were going to get priced out of stuff anyway. So,
yeah.
but yeah, it's a tough issue, isn't it? And my point is like to some degree that involves some sacrifice for me. There are times when I might want to offer an opinion about something, and I'm not a very controversial person anyway, but I do hesitate sometimes and think that, and I run it through that filter. Like, is this positive?
Mhm.
Is it controversial? Is somebody going to get upset about it? I just
Those who have the most to lose are the ones who are the most quiet.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. So, well, like I said, yeah, that was, I know the feeling, when I've read these comments and I'm like, gosh, these people are kind of being nasty. I was like, what did I do? I felt kind of like taken aback by it. It was just surprising. And I had never had anybody do anything like that. Yeah, I'd never had a response.
Did you defend what you said in any way? Just let it go.
I deleted them
Just
and
let it
blocked
go.
them. Deleted the comments and blocked them.
There you go.
They weren't even connected to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They were just,
yeah.
Well, and that's
In
just
general.
the protections of the anonymity of the internet, even if it's a name and a
That's
face,
right.
you don't know them.
the keyboard warriors. Well, and I was what happens is one person comments and then a person that's connected to that sees so-and-so just commented on Scott Taylor's post, and then they see it, and then before you know it, then it becomes
Yeah,
this firestorm. It's like, I'll just shut that down.
yeah, you don't want to.
I mean, heck, Lawrence Young, the chief economist for NAR, liked it.
Right.
He hit the like button on my LinkedIn post anyway. So, all right, I want to talk to you guys about Red Day. I thought given COVID and everything, it was awesome. Thank you for participating, helping, and I just think that's such a neat charity. And I love doing Red Day there, just honestly, because I've done Red Day projects where I'm somewhere I don't really want to hang out all day. You know what I mean? And there, I just love going there all day.
When you feel like you're really doing some good.
Yeah, it's like a horse, to go hang out on a horse farm all day and like have this beautiful scenery and be around horses and the people. I just feel like I think that's a great example of a well-run organization.
Sure.
Right? Like when the volunteers show up, they're like, oh, we got volunteers here. What should we do? They've got it like nailed, right? They're like, here's the forms, here's where the food, here's what we eat, here's the work to do, here's the projects, everything. I just think it's just a really good example of how to do that at a high level. So, Gina, thank you.
Yeah. I just want actually, I was getting ready to interject. I wanted to thank my committee because, it's been crazy, that work-wise and everything else. So I had an awesome committee really, really helping. Sharon Sunkle knocked it out of the park. She worked so hard on it. And Wendy Lyman and of course, Natasha and everyone else. So, it's just, it takes a team effort, and I think it was definitely successful. I'm happy we had the amount of people we had come out there, and they weren't expecting us to be the workhorses, as we were, and had to find more workforce for the afternoon. So, thanks all of y'all for showing up and for putting your heart into it and really working hard for them.
I love it. No matter how many times we've gone out there, they're always shocked at how quickly and efficiently we complete the work.
Yeah, Gina, if we go next year or another year, what was the head guy's name? Doug or something, or Brandon. Super nice guy, by the way. I told him, I was like, what you need to do is whatever the amount of work you have for the volunteer that you think, double it or whatever, because we always they run out of work for us to do. So
Well, they're used to church groups coming out and, things like that they, not that they don't work hard, but they're just used to more kids coming out, with their parents to paint fences and do things like that. They weren't, and I had told Jennifer, my contact there, I'm like, you don't understand, we are worker bees.
Yeah.
Give it to us. Whatever you think nobody wants to do, we'll knock it out. Just give it to us.
Yeah, we're competitive and we want to show each other how we can work harder than them. So we end up getting all sorts.
Well, and it's a tangible, in a nebulous industry, it's a tangible goal.
Right.
You have X amount of mulch that you must move, however many yards and spreading, you have all this. For us, it's like, oh my God, it's something I'm literally putting my hand on, right?
See it working
Yeah.
right away.
Immediate gratification.
I'm not waiting
yeah.
for a lender to deliver mulch. I'm not waiting for, the attorney to, give me a new brush for the roller, right?
Yeah. So I just thought it was awesome. And I thought it was a great way. There were a lot of, if you think about it, we didn't really have a real red day last year because of COVID. We did food drive. And so this year was the first one in 2 years. We had a lot of agents join us the last 2 years. So there were a lot of people that were exposed to our culture for the first time at the company special. So
You did a good job, Morgan. You obviously did a great job, because when I talked to Kim, I told you, I was like, yeah, I don't even think she wants to do it. So you did something right.
You know what? She never called me back. I never even heard back from Kim about it. So I don't know if she just, I have no idea, but
You did it right, I guess.
well, thank you. Well, we had, we've gotten some really good feedback from everyone there too, that they just, how
Yeah.
pleasant everyone was, how nice the day it was, how much work we got accomplished. We're only the third group they have had out there since last year. I mean, they had to make accommodations for us because of COVID. And so, they're still trying to get their bearings back of, releasing to larger groups again. So I think that we might have been good for them to see what can be done when they open back up.
I thought they were awesome. I mean, I for one am fine with like making a tradition where it's like every year there's 2 projects, like one is Soap Ranks and one is somewhere else or something. Because as we're getting bigger, we'll get to where it's a lot of people to have on one project just to organize. If you're going to try to have 200 volunteers.
Even this year with parking lot, right?
Yeah, good point. So, yeah. And
I'd be
then,
open to having people come to my farm and clean up.
Well, First Register is a 501c3.
Yeah.
and then Karen, would you like to talk about Saturday? What we did on Saturday? this week?
So the diversity committee went to Healing Transitions. It's a place that addicts and stuff like that, where they actually go for help and they live there. So we actually went there and spreaded mulch all over. So it was really nice. We had a really good turnout. And I was really happy to see that, because when we have the meetings, it's probably 2 people on the call other than Sharon and I. And so we actually had, I don't know how many people,
20?
about 20 people, I think. So
Oh,
that was
okay.
good.
It's on a
Saturday
Saturday
people
morning.
like having something.
Is that what it is? And it was really nice. We learned a lot.
And they didn't work us too hard.
No,
They
they
gave us a
didn't.
tour.
Yeah, they gave us a tour. So it was nice. It was a real nice event.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, that was fun.
Where is
That
that
was
place?
cool.
It's off of, what is
Dick's
that?
Park.
Okay.
Oh, is that what? Yeah, right,
Right, yeah.
exactly.
And it was purpose built as I guess, from what Mark was telling me, a lot of the supporters of that place are kind of some wealthier families and stuff, where they maybe had like a child that had, addiction issues, or maybe even died of an addiction issue, and they've donated to fund that place. And so it's been so successful that they've run out of room. I think he said, I can't remember how many people they have sleeping on the floor right now. They don't have enough rooms. So they're raising $17 million.
And they'd already raised, what,
They
16?
raised 16 of the
Good
17 million.
Lord.
Yeah.
So really amazing thing. Yeah, and it was, I was just really impressed. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, I didn't either. It was really.
Yeah, I
good.
was very impressed with everybody. It was so nice too.
Yeah.
The people that I guess we call patients or that were there, they're there, and they have it as a really structured thing. You show up and you're in likely detox.
Yeah.
And then you move into this kind of dormitory setting, and then you move into an 8-person room. And then eventually as you move through the program, you move into a 4-person room.
Right.
And then you have a closet. And it's and you,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
That's good.
yeah.
for the different steps. That's how you know which step you're
Yeah.
in,
So
And
it
they
gets
take on
better as
leadership.
you
It's
go
better.
up.
Yes.
Well, and interestingly, they start taking on leadership roles.
Mhm.
They start guiding, helping, leading the other
Exactly.
people. It's really interesting to see. And the guy that was giving us a tour, it was like a comedy show.
I
It
know.
was hilarious. But he had had a tough path in life. He was homeless and a drug addict. Really had a hard path, and so it was amazing to see him, clean clothes and happy, and 10 months clean and sober,
Mhm.
and 2 months away from graduating, moving out. So they get the program runs on an
Right.
Alcoholics Anonymous kind of curriculum 12-step thing. And so he was talking about, getting his silver chip, get an apartment and stuff like that. So it was a really awesome program, and it just made me feel great about our market center and the culture that was awesome. Mark Stewart organized that. So he's a supporter. I think he might be on the board. Supporter for that.
And apparently had problems with addiction.
Yeah.
He was open about that for 31 years. He was over himself, I think. So anyway, really, really awesome day. So it was great. So all right. So now next time I want to talk about are your businesses. How is it going out there? You guys are the ALC. You're the cappers.
It's going good, but I will say for buyers, it is like a really, really hard market. I mean, you're not getting something if you're not $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over. You're just not getting it.
I lost one over the weekend.
I've lost
45,000 over, $30,000 of due diligence, less than 30 days to close. I mean, and the agent even called me. This is one of the rare instances where I had an agent that actually talked to me, because most of them just ignore me. And she said, I just want you to know, y'all were very close, but it came down to the numbers, and there were two others that were higher than this.
Wow.
And
What price range house?
Yeah.
so let's see here. So it's listed under 4, but we offered 435. It was like 370 something. We went, still didn't get 435. Still didn't get it. We waived appraisal. We waived home inspection. We waived repairs. Right.
Wow.
Waived everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's tough.
So let me ask you this. Go around the room.
But that's Cary. That's Cary in North Rock. It's like
So
I
just
still
ballpark.
think
Doing it, we've had like all over. I'm feeling it.
So we're gonna go around the room, just ballpark for me. I want to do an experiment. How many offers you've written this year? So we're end of May now. How many offers you've written and how many have gone under contract?
I've written a lot of offers.
Yeah.
it's a tough one. I've had more sellers this year.
I've had more sellers, but
Megan and I have wrote four this weekend. 10 for her mom in the past 2 weeks. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Lost all of it.
So Ethan, my buyer agent, ended up, I think I told you earlier, for the one New York buyer he's got a California buyer, New York, 2 New York buyers, a Maryland buyer. He's got about 10 buyers that are actively looking. For the one buyer from New York, he finally got a deal on the 14th offer, okay, over about a month period. And that's sight unseen, all of them sight unseen, because you don't have time to get here and look at them. And he ultimately said the house was at 635 listed. They went 735. Okay, so they want 100K over appraisal addendum, repair addendum that I had an attorney write up. We're taking the house as it is.
Which is so funny because
The contract says that, but
Yeah.
it makes the seller feel better.
That's why we makes the
It
seller.
reinforces.
right.
And then he put down $80,000 due diligence. So that was the third home that he had made an offer on with 80K due diligence and didn't get the other 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So Ethan is a brand new agent.
Right.
He's written 15 offers just on this one client.
Right.
One. So what are your numbers? What's your ballpark coming up? Just ballpark. How many offers have you written?
Let's say 20 and probably gotten half of them.
That's
Just
incredible.
That's
Yeah,
good.
but this is over the course of, like, I've seen a change though.
Recently.
Just
Yeah,
this
we said
year.
last-
Just the
Well,
last couple of months.
60 days.
I've been doing some
Yeah.
research. That's why I want to see.
It's
What's
just
your,
gotten crazy.
how many offers have you written?
So total, I mean, let's say, just say 30.
You said this year?
Just this year. Yeah.
And then that's not being, that's,
Yep.
so then maybe 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not as many buyers, so 15 and 5.
Okay.
That sounds about right in my head.
Yeah, I'm thinking I've written about 15 offers.
Okay.
I've probably gotten about 7.
That's good.
That's really good.
Yeah. How about you, Gina?
I'm probably at about 50-50.
Okay. So I've been talking to some very, very good agents like you guys in other markets and things. And the numbers I'm hearing are more like written 15 offers got 2. Wow.
Right.
Oh, wow.
12 offers got 3, or something like that. They're getting 10 to 20% of their offers.
Depends on where the buyer
Sure.
is.
Yeah.
That's why ours is so good. So
Yeah, I
many are
can see
like
that.
downtown Durham, North Raleigh,
Inside the bell line.
where they are.
But I'll be honest too, like if I always ask my clients in consultation about like, what level of honesty do you want me to do? If they're like, well, we want to offer this on this property, and I'll tell them, you will not get it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
I do
You will
that
not get
too.
it.
I
Because,
do it
and
too.
it's not to be rude, but it's like, if I'm gonna go show you 10 properties on the weekend and we're writing 3 offers, you need to understand the ones that you have 0 chance.
Right.
So
Yeah.
now the next question is, how would you rate yourself at the scripts and your ability to be able to coach a buyer to get that? So quick anecdotal example, talking to the top agent yesterday, top producing agent, awesome agent, had a buyer, high D CEO type buyer, wanted to buy a house, said, granted the house is probably overpriced, it's been on the market for a couple months, really weird right now. He said, okay, well, I want to offer this, pretty low. Listing agent didn't really coach him much on that, sent the offer over, no response. The high D buyer didn't like the no response, said, go rescind my offer.
Mhm.
Well, it turned out they had gotten 2 other offers,
Mhm.
both higher than this one.
Mhm.
And so there wasn't a lot of coaching going on and trying to get the guy to make a more reasonable offer. So he might have got it. Turned out he really wanted to buy the house.
Mhm.
He was just
Playing.
outsmarting himself.
Right.
Yeah, trying to play games.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so how well do we feel like, how well versed are we at being able to have those conversations with the buyer, prep them
Mhm.
before we, a lot of that work starts day one before we ever even get the car, right?
Mhm.
Here's the reality. Here's what it's like, how bad do you want to buy a house?
Well, what I just did, I had one that fell through last night, and I spent a lot of time, researching the numbers.
Mhm.
And I said, it's gonna be between here and here. More than
Mhm.
likely, it's gonna be between here and here.
Mhm.
And I said, and that top number might be low.
Right.
And he goes, well, I remember when I interviewed for a job and everybody said, no, you won't get it, you won't get it. And I went and I got it. And I think we need to try anyways. I said, okay.
Right.
Right.
Because that's the mindset. People it's not a market for everybody.
No.
It just is.
So is
not.
that part of the scripting? So what this agent had decided to do as part of the scripting is actually going to be kind of like almost trying to talk them out of buying right now.
Mhm.
Like, I'm here for you. I'll be in business years from now. Are you sure you want to buy a house right now? This is what you will have to do to win. If you don't want to do that, my suggestion would be you sit on the sidelines for now.
But here's the thing. You can say sit on the sidelines, but in our market, I don't know that that's really the answer.
It might
Because
not be,
I
because the
don't
prices
see it,
are-
I don't see it changing for at least,
Who was it? Was it Goldman Sachs or somebody that said we should expect inventory shortages here for like the next 3 years?
I think it's gonna be at
It was
least
somebody
3
like
years.
that.
Yeah, there was an article on
I
bigger.
don't
Unless
think
something
that's-
extremely
Catastrophic.
catastrophic.
That's what I've been saying, because I am an investor, that's a lot of my 20 offers. And, some we were getting, because I was kind of doing different things and they were working. And then all of a sudden, like the last 2 months, forget it. It's not working. And I met with them again last night and we were strategizing, and somebody said, well, maybe we just need to step back for a while. And then I said, well, that's a thought.
Really.
But in this market, I don't know if that's going to be the right decision, because I don't know that it's going to get better.
Right.
And interest
and you
rates
could-
definitely are not going to stay.
You could, if you stay in your same qualification, you could lose the ability to buy, because we're already seeing unimaginable levels of appreciation.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's the-
Pockets
that's
that are at 10, 12,
Scary.
15% of appreciation per year, you
Yeah.
times that times 3 months of change, and that's
Right.
easily.
So
Can I give you guys a
So
little
it's worth
trick
it.
you might try? Just an
Yes,
idea.
please.
Just being creative. Gina, would you like a
Please.
creative idea to try?
What now? What I want to,
Would you like a creative idea to try when you're trying to get a?
sure, always.
So this would only work if you have a pretty well-to-do buyer that's got some cash, right? But the kind of people that can pay this kind of due diligence money and stuff could do this. So what if I was buying a house, you're my agent, and I said, go tell the seller that I will pay the real estate commissions.
Oh, yeah, I tried
Did I?
that.
Okay.
I tried that on one.
How did it work?
It didn't work.
No.
How did it work out?
They went with another offer.
Okay, it was just probably higher. So you still gotta go,
At the end
you know,
of the
you
day,
might go.
It
you
went
still gotta-
over.
How about this?
Yeah.
Call the seller and say, send me a reverse offer. Have your seller
Right.
fill out what they want.
The blank.
Right,
form.
here's-
that.
Here's my
Sell it
check,
for
I'm
what they
sending
want.
over my
Yeah.
And
checkbook.
send it to me, and we'll sign it.
Yeah.
Filled in and I'll sign.
Yeah. I've
That's,
seen that.
I think that's a really good idea, Morgan.
But
I
you gotta
really
catch
do.
them early, right?
Yeah.
I think
Coming soon.
you have to catch them at coming soon. I really do.
Mhm.
And I don't care what price point you're talking about, because I'm even seeing like $1 million houses.
yeah.
I've seen 3 now.
Yeah.
Got a coming soon offer
Mhm.
and
No.
it was gone. It was gone. Sight unseen offer, coming soon, over $1 million. And, you know, but then my buyer says, I don't want to pay $1 million for a house that I can't see.
Of course.
Because we've lost
Well,
3
and you
now.
don't blame them, right?
Right.
It's very, it's very
Right.
reasonable to not want to buy something. Yeah,
Now,
right.
one of them, I think they should have done, because it was a builder's house.
Yeah.
It was not old.
Of course.
And that was like, yeah.
And
That
see,
one
those are
would've
things
worked.
that we know from experience. You
Right.
gotta realize most people only buy maybe 3 houses in a
Yeah.
lifetime or half dozen.
But part of that is, I think they like the buying process. They want to go see the house. They
Right.
want
Get
to
excited
enjoy,
for it.
yeah, they want to enjoy the process of buying their dream home. I
Mhm.
totally get it. You know, and it's almost sad that this is kind of going by the wayside
Takes
now.
the joy out.
It's really kind of taking the joy out.
So now my next question for you is, how many of you, when you think of the listings you intended to take or needed to take this year to hit your financial goal for your business plan, how many of you are on track with taking enough listings year to date? We're almost halfway through the year.
Blowing it out of the water.
Nothing.
Yeah,
I'm blowing it out of the water.
Yeah.
Not,
You are
not
happy.
me.
Yeah.
okay.
And that's a goal. That's
Morgan,
a
have you,
goal.
have you,
Well, I'm just trying to create my listings right now. So I mean, that's what, we're working
Okay.
on development stuff, and that'll
Mhm.
hopefully hit September, October, November, but that's the only way I see to get, I mean, it's so competitive right
Yes.
now. I mean, I don't see, like you were saying, I mean, it used to just be 300 and below. That was like crazy.
Right.
now it's up into the over.
Now it's millions. I mean, so how did that last, I don't know, this was a
Multiple
month ago.
offers, almost up to $2 million.
Yeah, so we have a client looking up to 1.7, and we had like 3 houses we could look at in North Raleigh.
And
3
probably,
houses.
probably by the end of the weekend, you'll land 2.
Yeah, and so he bought a new construction house, was
Go
lucky.
back
And you're
12
lucky you got
months.
the good construction.
Well, it was off the
I
market
know.
as a builder I knew, and so I was able to get in there before it even went on the market.
Go back
But
12
that's very
months, it was a
lucky
buyer's
because
market.
A
New
lot of
construction is
builders,
with the lottery now and the highs.
Well, how about auctions? Why are we not doing auctions? Because essentially that's what we're doing.
we are trying.
Like, we need to get an
license
auctioneer's
to
license.
Right.
And look, you could go, you talk about selling some property right now.
Well, that is what's happening.
Yeah,
These are
that's
auctions.
exactly.
Yeah,
what
These are
happened.
auctions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
It's an
yeah.
auction we don't know.
when you're not.
Let me ask you,
negotiating-
hey, guys, how many of you are losing out on listings because some other broker is like, oh, I'll do it for 4%,
So
and offer only 2% to the buyer's agent? How many of those are you finding?
Say that again?
commission compression, how many
Yeah.
are you
Yeah,
losing?
for 4%, 4% and do 2% buyer's agent, 2% listing agent. I mean, how many are you running into that?
I'm not really into
I
that.
haven't run into that with. the ones
Gina,
I've
are
done.
you seeing that in certain price ranges more than others?
I had this one, that one was in $650,000.
And they went with a 4% agent.
Mm-hmm.
Did you consider taking it at 4%?
Nope. I'm not gonna, I know how hard buyer agents work. I know how hard listing agents work.
I mean, the truth is, I do think we'll eventually see in our market, unfortunately, 2% buyer agent commissions. I
I'm
think
Buyer
seeing it.
It's already
agent
that
or-
way.
It's already-
I'm already seeing it. In fact, agents from our office, I have seen 2% 2% buyer agents on their listings.
Well, and frankly, it's part of the reason we made the change we did. Part of the reason we lowered the cap. I can see what's happening, right? There's commission compression, and it's
There should
affecting
be.
agents.
I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, I don't take listings for 4%, okay?
Right.
But there should be, with the supply and demand, the way it is right now. If you look at any other commodity or anything else, I mean, people really, I mean, you need a buyer agent more than ever right now. right? More than
Oh,
ever.
yeah.
But listing agent,
But
I
you do
mean,
need it, though.
I mean,
You
back
do,
during the,
but-
back during the downturn, I would say, I mean, I remember one time taking a 7% listing on a $2.4 million house.
Right.
That was back when it was, I mean, it was a chore to sell a $2.4 million house.
Right.
It's a chore to sell anything. So you're right.
Nobody likes it.
changes.
I don't like it going down.
Right. Well, I've got
I've
some things that are going to help you guys today that we're going to talk about for the meeting, but it's part of, Gary Keller talks about the market at the moment,
Mhm.
right? And we've been in an opposite market at the moment where it was the opposite. You would pick from a seller, prospective seller, you'd be like, great, I need another listing. I need a home that you'd be like, I want to buy, I'm a ready, willing, and able buyer, right? So I can go make a quick commission, and so, yeah, but it's, so we've got commission compression to deal with. We've got lack of inventory, fewer people wanting to list, people objecting and having, concern about things. And a lot of this is going to force us to develop our skills as brokers, right? So there have been times in a slightly more balanced market, if we're to be honest with each other, can't we become a little bit of like an order taker? Yep, I'm gonna put you on an auto search. You tell me what you want to see. Okay, you found something you want to see. I'm gonna pop over there and show it to you. You want to buy it? Okay, I'm gonna type it up. Maybe with a counter offer, boom, done. Right?
Mhm.
That's not kind of hard work.
Mhm.
This is getting creative. Like I'm so happy to see some of our new agents like downtown knocking on doors, looking at junky houses, figuring out who owns it, going to find the seller. What are you planning on doing? Are you thinking about selling? You know what I mean? Like people are creating deals, and that's what good brokers have to do in the market. Create deals that aren't there. And so I've got some suggestions of things we can do for that. So the first thing I want to do is a solution to some of this is I want to talk to you about, so who's read this book? Oh yeah. So Trevor, you guys just.
I've read it.
I've been here 8.5 years.
All right.
I bought multiple copies of that book.
So there are 4 models that are in the book, right? 4 models for business. What are the 4 models? What's the first one? Don't, not your, not.
Lead
I'm just giving them the acronym.
generation.
No.
Economic.
Yes, economic model,
Lead generation.
That's the easiest. way
lead
to do it.
generation model. The one you don't like,
Budget.
budget model.
Come on, guys.
But it's been a while. I'll be honest.
Or.
Organization.
Organizational model.
Okay.
Organizational model.
Just remember elbow. That's
elbow.
the easiest way.
But now just the LBO.
Okay.
Economic model, lead generation model, budget model, organizational model. So today, we're going to talk about, of the 4 of those, given the conversation we just had, which one would be probably the most important one to talk about right
Lead gen.
now? Lead generation model. Now, here's the cool thing. Keller Williams has kind of sometimes got a bad rap for being like all about like cold calling FSBOs and stuff like that. Where did that come from? Did that come from Gary Keller, somewhere else?
Came from Bold initially.
Bold, right? When have you ever heard Gary Keller up on stage talking about like, I think you should be pounding the phones, cold calling FSBOs for 4 hours a day? When have you ever
Nope.
heard him say that?
I don't think I ever.
I never have.
I've had people tell me when I was cold calling that they asked me if I was with Keller Williams. They said, we will not use a Keller Williams agent.
Because
in our
we're
house
so irritated by
Because
all
we,
of
you
them.
guys harassed that one.
So, well, and
I was
where
like,
that
is that
came
what you
from,
want?
where that came from is Bold, and Bold came from the last market of the moment that was challenging. And that was back when, for those of us that were selling real estate in 2008, 9, 10, it was painful. And it was hard, it was like the only way to survive it was to have a lot of listings so that something could sell. And you remember back when listings would
I
expire?
used to have like 45 listings.
And some would expire, right?
Yeah.
You just be
All
like,
the time.
yep, I got the price wrong, or they want to overprice it, and I had it for 6 months, and now it's gone. Somebody else stole it.
Get one showing every 40 days.
Yeah, and it's just like whatever. You're like, I got another listing coming. You're gonna get listings coming out of my pores. So, that's where that came from, but it's not what is in the best practices. But now, yes, granted, lead generation, we have to lead generate. Yes, we have to get lead listing appointments. Yes, there are a variety of ways to do that. FISBOs would be one. For, expired listings would be one. But when there aren't any, what do you shift to? And so there's kind of the core lead generation model, and guess what that is? It's in the book. And what does it look like?
It would be the people in your database.
The database. Yeah. Okay. So Robert, you stepped out, but you are a relationship realtor.
100%.
And so one of the things we talked about is that Keller Williams has kind of gotten a bad rap sometimes for being like the FISBO expired listing cold calling company. And I challenged everybody. I said, when have you ever heard Gary Keller on stage during a presentation saying you should be cold calling FISBO 4 hours a day? You've never ever heard him say that.
No. But he certainly has taken a focus in the last 18 months on making sure agents are working their sphere.
Because, and this is the point, with the disruptors coming into our business, Zillow and all these other things, they're trying to get in between you and your client. So they want to get there first, and then they can skim some money off the deal somehow. They can refer it to one of their agents or something like that. Zillow owns a mortgage company that's operating in multiple states right now. You know why they're doing that?
Compete with Keller Mortgage.
Well, they did it before Keller Mortgage, I think.
Oh.
They did it so that they can go capture a borrower lead, turn the borrower lead into a buyer lead and sell the buyer lead to a realtor. They want to just go up the food chain and insert themselves into the food chain before you. So my point is, this is how you keep them from inserting themselves in the food chain before you. You're just that close. There's no gap, right? They can only insert themselves if there's a gap. They haven't heard from you because you sold them a house 2 years ago. They haven't heard from you. And now the house was small because they just had twins or triplets and they're shopping around online. And what site are they on?
Zillow.
And now you lost them. They're gone.
Mhm.
Probably, or very possibly. Okay, so here's the really cool thing. So when we talk about databases in the in the lead generation model, we talk about two things, and you write down page, write down page. The bullseye, 137. So on page 137 has that bullseye graphic, and it shows, the general public you haven't met, the target group you haven't met yet, your met group, and then your allied resources one-on-one is the center of the bullseye, right? And let's face it, could you sell 100 houses a year with 30 people in your database? I know somebody that does.
I was gonna say, if they're the right people.
I mean, they have more than that in the
That's what it
database, don't
is.
get me wrong. But
Yeah.
the core group is this group of allied resources that refers this person 2 to 5 deals a year each, right? And that's the point. So that's that core group, but at least the Met group is where we want to focus our time. So we're always trying to move everybody in, right? We want to move them in from having Mets to these allied resources. So how many Mets, and a Met person would be somebody that they know you, and most importantly, they know what you do. Meaning if you call them, if I call and say, hey, this is Scott at Keller Williams, they're going to be like, oh yeah, of course I know you. You're the realtor guy that calls me 4 times a year and sends me a quote, right? How many people are in your databases that are Mets?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Throw out numbers.
The qualifier to be in my database is that they are someone who will refer me business and knows what I do. So that's the base level. That's a C in my database.
How many you got altogether? Got everybody.
650
So everybody in your database is a Met.
is a Met.
To be in your database is a Met. 650.
So I would, yeah. So let me clarify actually, because there are some Ds that are like vendors or like your connections in my database. So it's probably, that number is about right.
650.
I'm gonna say I only have about maybe 160
Okay. Mets that know you.
that
know what you do.
really
Okay.
know me, that
Okay.
really know me.
I would have to look at our database,
Ballpark.
but just say 200.
200. You got more than that.
I don't know. I mean,
Mets?
Oh, you mean Met?
Okay, so you met, that
Describe Met again.
you've done a deal with them.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they know.
You've probably done more than that many deals in your career. So you got more than 200.
500. I don't know.
Okay. Gina?
Need to look at it.
I'll have to look at it because I've got,
Ballpark.
758.
I would say about 30, 50.
Okay. All right. So now, this is Mets. So in the book, there are two ratios. So we've got the Mets and the haven't Mets. Now the haven't Mets would be like maybe people that were internet leads, right? We've been running, this Katie's still running a lot of Facebook ads.
Yeah.
So that drips in these low quality leads, tons of them, right?
Keep touching them,
Yeah, that's it. And that you've never met them. They don't know you. You could be behind each other in the grocery store or line and you've never even known. Just never met them. How many, ballpark would you say you got in that?
I mean, a lot.
Robert's gonna have none, but
I refer those leads out.
Yeah,
I don't want to touch them.
2,000.
2,000. Yeah, those.
I mean, we're trying to do both, like, so I'm trying to, because you still get, that's a good way to grow the people that will refer to business.
Yeah, we're trying to move them in from people we
Right.
haven't met to make them people we have met so that we can start getting doing business.
Right.
with. So what's another ballpark figure here? Somebody might have.
These are just cold people.
Cold
you know,
people. Like honestly, I think Jordan Clark has probably 20,000.
Probably,
The Delano's probably have a ton.
They have a
from,
ton.
linemen that were doing before COVID.
Right.
Okay, so there are two ratios Gary Keller found interviewing top producing agents and figuring out how much, what a conversion rate could be. Now, keep in mind, this is when we're touching these people enough times per year, right? 30, how many times per year?
30.
36.
I started to say it, but I didn't
36.
finish it. It starts with a 30, 36. That's right. Awesome. 36 times. So as we're doing that over time, we can start to get to these conversion rates where it's like, okay, for this many people in my database, I can start to potentially capture this much business. For the haven't mets, anybody know what the ratio is?
Very well. Can't remember what it is.
Would it surprise you to learn that it's 50 to 1? Wouldn't surprise me.
No.
Now, still,
surprised me either.
how many leads are in here? How many deals are here?
You got a lot.
40?
40.
Right.
Now, it
We're
takes
seeing
time.
about two per, yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
These
About
are the stories
Facebook
where
leads.
once in a while, Mickey Mouse that signed up as Mickey Mouse on your website or whatever sends you a message and he's like, okay, fine, I want to see this one. You're like, oh, how about that? Mickey Mouse wants to see a house, So that's the haven't met. Now, this is where the gold is. Anybody know what this is in the book?
Is it like 2 to 1 or something?
12 to 2.
12 to 2.
So basically 6 to 1. The reason Gary wrote it as 12 to 2 is theoretically one of those people in your database is going to do a transaction that year, and they're going to refer someone to refer you to someone who's not in your database. So there's for every 12, there's 2 deals. Now, in the new version that's being updated, remember that was written in 2002. It's changed. The ratios changed. Which direction do you think it went? You think it got to where the same number of people are doing or potentially more business with you or less?
More. I mean, I think more.
What do you guys think?
I'm more.
It's the opposite.
Really?
It's less. So it's no longer 12 to 2. It's 10 to 1.
Really?
Now, I think the reason for that is there's just more noise out there now. Now remember, there are these disruptors, people trying to insert themselves in between you and there are more agents, there's Zillow, there's Open Door, all the stuff that's getting in the way and changing that ratio. But here's the cool thing. So now, one of the cool things is it made the math a lot easier. So now when I do like a recruiting or consulting appointment, I don't even need my calculator, right?
Think on your feet.
65 deals, 16 deals, 50 deals, 80 deals, 35 deals. Who's capturing the business available in their database?
Well, see, my whole model is built off of every piece of business I have. I expect to have 2 transactions come from that piece of business, right?
Do you do a version of the promise script? You ever heard that script?
No.
Like, all right, we'll do that next time.
I basically describe it and the way the level of service that